Hello, Carey kids. Can you see me? No? How about now? Ah, there you are. I've been hiding, just like in a game of hide and seek. So let me come round to the front of the chair and sit down. Now, do you still like to play hide and seek? Finding clever places to hide is great fun, isn't it? Particularly if you know your house better than the person who's trying to find you. And making it as difficult as possible for them is great fun. I can remember when I was your age, and if I was the one doing the seeking, I would have to close my eyes and count to 100 while the other person was hiding. I remember that if I was perhaps feeling a bit mean, I might count really fast. And sometimes I might even miss out a few numbers. Yes, I think they call that cheating. And at the very end, as we were going to start seeking, we used to say, "Ready or not, here I come." Anyway, in our absolutely true Bible story today, it comes from 1 Samuel chapter 26. And King Saul and David are having a very serious game of hide and seek. In fact, it's so serious because King Saul wants to kill David. Not really a game at all. Do you remember the story that Abigail told us last week? Saul was so jealous of David, wasn't he? David was handsome. He was getting more popular with the people, and King Saul just couldn't stand it. Saul thought the whole world should revolve around him. He thought, it's all about me. He was so jealous that he had tried to kill David with his spear. But do you remember about Jonathan as well? Jonathan was a true friend of David and had persuaded Saul not to kill David. But King Saul was not so good at keeping his promises for very long, as we will see. So, some people went to see King Saul and told Saul where David was hiding and where his camp was. David's now in danger, isn't he? So Saul took an army with him to seek out David. They made their base on a mountain close to where David and his men were camping. King Saul was going to wait there for just the right moment to pounce. But David had been smart. We know, don't we, that God was with him and was guiding him. David sent out spies and found out that Saul was nearby. So David decided to go to find Saul along with his servant Abishai. So let's pick this up from the Bible, 1 Samuel 26, and I'm going to read verses 7 to 12 now. So here we go. So David and Abishai went to the army by night, and there was Saul lying asleep inside the camp with his spear stuck in the ground near his head. Abner and the soldiers were lying around him. Abishai said to David, "Today God has delivered your enemy into your hands. Now let me pin him to the ground with one thrust of the spear. I won't strike him twice." But David said to Abishai, "Don't destroy him. Who can lay a hand on the Lord's anointed and be guiltless? As surely as the Lord lives," he said, "the Lord himself will strike him, or his time will come, and he will die, or he will go into battle and perish. But the Lord forbid that I should lay a hand on the Lord's anointed. Now get the spear and water jug that are near his head, and let's go." So David took the spear and water jug near Saul's head, and they left. No one saw or knew about it, nor did anyone wake up. They were all sleeping because the Lord had put them into a deep sleep. Right. So Abishai wanted to kill Saul as they had the opportunity. It was dark Everyone was asleep, and incredibly, they could walk right up to King Saul where he was sleeping. But despite that opportunity, David said no. And that's because David knew God was in control. David absolutely trusted God and knew that it was God who had made Saul king. He also trusted God to be fair, and in the end to deal with Saul in the way that he deserved at the right time, at the time of God's choosing. David remembered the 10 Commandments, including do not kill. God says we need to be kind, even to those who treat us badly. That can be so hard, can't it? As we naturally want to get our own back. Of course we do. Perhaps there's someone who treats you badly, and it can be very tempting, can't it, just to take your own revenge on them. But you know, God's way is not to do that. However, and I want to say this very carefully, that doesn't mean that you have to suffer in silence if someone is treating you badly. It normally needs someone else to point it out to them and deal with it. So you should always tell your parents, a teacher, or another adult you can trust. You can also pray for that person too. But let's get back to our story. And we're at the point where David and Abishai, his servant, went off and climbed a nearby hill so they could shout over to Saul's camp. I'm going to go back to the Bible now, reading from verses 14 to 21. He called out to the army and to Abner, son of Ner, "Aren't you going to answer me, Abner?" Abner replied, "Who are you who calls the king?" David said, "You're a man, aren't you? And who is like you in Israel? Why didn't you guard your lord and king? Someone came to destroy your lord the king. What you have done is not good. As surely as the Lord lives, you and your men must die, because you did not guard your master, the Lord's anointed. Look around you. Where is the king's spear and water jug that were near his head?" Now Saul recognized David's voice and said, "Is that your voice, David?" David replied, Yes, it is, my lord the king." And David added, "Why is my lord pursuing his servant? Why are you pursuing me? What have I done? And what is wrong? And what wrong am I guilty of? Now let my lord the king listen to his servant's words. If the Lord has incited you against me, then may he accept an offering. If, however, the people have done it, may they be cursed before the Lord. They have driven me today from my share in the Lord's inheritance and have said, 'Go, serve other gods.' Now do not let my blood fall to the ground far from the presence of the Lord. The king of Israel has come out to look for a flea as one hunts a partridge in the mountains." And then Saul said, "I have sinned. Come back, David, my son. Because you considered my life precious today, I will not try to harm you again. Surely I have acted like a fool and have been terribly wrong." Well, Saul knew that David could have killed him, but chose not to do so. Saul says he was sorry, but deep down he didn't mean it. After one of Saul's men collected his spear, Saul went home, and David never saw Saul again. In fact, it was just a little bit later that Saul was injured in a battle and died. It was God who decided how and when Saul would die, not David. And when you think about it, David knew that he was in danger from Saul, but he still didn't take the opportunity to kill him. Instead, David chose to put God first. He obeyed the commandments and trusted in God to deal with the problem. Well, if you have put your trust in Jesus, then that means you have the Holy Spirit in you, and he will help you to be smart. I'd like to call it being God smart. I hope that makes sense. And you can be God smart in tough situations when someone is being unkind or bullying you. You can pray for that person, and you can also tell an adult, perhaps a parent or a teacher, someone who can point out to that person the wrong they are doing. Why not pray for someone who has been unkind to you right now? Thank you very much for listening. I hope this has been helpful.